Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Tague, Director of Customer Talent Advisory here at GEM. I'm so excited to be here today, but even more excited to welcome Pat Wadors, Chief Talent Officer at Procore. In addition to her current role, Pat has previously led LinkedIn through its growth from 2,000 to 12,000 people, and most recently led HR for ServiceNow, one of the fastest growing enterprise SaaS platforms ever. Pat is a widely recognized thought leader and tireless advocate of diversity, inclusion, and belonging. She currently serves on the board of Zenefits, as well as El Camino Hospital, and is a founding member of Accenture's People Plus Work initiative that has worked to create a global network of over 400,000 jobs to support people who lost their work during the pandemic. Pat, we'd like to extend a warm GEM welcome to you today. Welcome to our second annual summit. We're joined by over 3,000 talent professionals from around the world. So 2021, it's already been a very exciting year for you, I think, with your successful IPO of Procore. Congratulations on that. What else have you been up to recently?
Oh, I don't know, getting bored. Actually, Matt, I think for anybody in talent, the last 18 months have been mind-blowing. The amount of change and learning and adjusting. I've always been comfortable being perfectly imperfect and being a student. But being a student during these times has been just a wild ride and a blessing. I mean, the number of people I've reached out to, my network has broadened, the learning I've had with COVID and social injustice, and then dealing with a distributed digital workforce and mental health being forefront. And how do you create a community and a sense of belonging and on and on. So yeah, life's been fun. And my oldest son just got married. So on top of all that, my family's been blessed.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on that. That's fantastic to hear. And so that's a great segue. Our theme today is hiring reimagined. And I think, Pat, you touched on a couple of these points. It's been pretty crazy recently. We've had layoffs and pivots and surges and all kinds of things happening. And I read a poll by Gallup recently that said 48% of US workers are looking for new jobs, right? Whether that's actively or passively. People are out there exploring. And so I'm curious to hear, from your perspective, what do you think the rest of 2021 holds for us as talent professionals, and even next year, if you're willing to go out that far? What does that look like to you?
Gosh, what I'm assuming in my forecast, Matt, is that we're going to continue the great talent migration. I know there's been language out there. It says it's the great resignation, but they're actually migrating. Diverse talent is going to communities where they feel more supported and where they provide care. You have individuals figuring out they can be productive anywhere in their world, doing what they do and what they love to do. And so they're going to take that choice and run with it. You have others that are tied to an office space and say, maybe I don't like that. Maybe I want more flexibility, more hybrid approach. And so you're finding a lot of people reevaluating what they want in their careers, their personal life, their flexibility. Can I walk my children to their school in the morning and then log in? Can I be there for lunch? Can I have a healthier, more integrated life? And if anything, we've shown each other that we can do that in this pandemic crazy world right now, leveraging technology. So I think that continues. I also think, Matt, that the challenges of this migration are going to come into play in terms of comp and benefits, in terms of how we recruit, the job description, the tools we give the employees, and how to manifest their best productive lives, but also the community in which they work. So how do you attach them to an organization with culture? How do you make them feel part of a team? How do you make them feel warm and welcomed and get to know the human, not just the role? We have to be way more intentional with that going forward. And I think that, again, lives beyond 2021.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you. And just to double click on that piece a little bit, I think that's so critical. You've been such a proponent of this concept of belonging, right? And I think you even have the most watched course on LinkedIn Learning about belonging. I checked, there are over 700,000 learners you've impacted by that course, which is just truly amazing. But I'm curious, in this digital world, what does belonging mean? Like, what does that mean? How does it manifest? And how can talent teams specifically bring that to life with candidates?
Well, I think that belonging is so much more important now that we feel anxious about life and about support and family and care. I think that we need to pause and get to know the human, not just what we do. Introduce the person to the team, to our team. Language matters. If you think about technology right now, you and I have a front row seat.
Mhm.
right? If you think about Zoom or Teams, everyone now is in the front row and we get to use the chat, private or public, right? We get to engage, we get to use Jamboard to innovate. So technology is helping all of us find our voice and our rhythm in a healthier way. That's a great way to create belonging. The other thing is, bring, like I said, the human into the office space. What I've done recently in an all hands for my own function, we gave them homework the night before and said, look, we're going to do a breakout session. It's kind of like show and tell. Bring something into this all hands from your home office, from your house, that is meaningful to you in some way. A piece of art, something that your children did or your spouse or you yourself created, whatever that thing is. And then be willing to share that story, the meaning, to your coworkers. And we broke them off into groups of 5, 6 employees together and share these amazing stories. And then we came together as a community and said, what do you learn about your coworker that you were excited to share and learn about? Everyone loved that session, Matt. So you can pause in the DNA of your workflow and celebrate what makes you unique. Like if you're learning how to, bike long distance, or I learned how to play the ukulele this winter because I want to create keep my creativity higher. And so knowing me builds trust, confidence, psychological safety. All of those are super important to belonging. And without belonging, you will under leverage the workforce you have. You will create less innovation without that. You will leave opportunity on the table for you and your customers if you don't figure out a way to bring the whole person into that conversation.
Excellent. I love that. Thank you. So it's really about kind of weaving that belonging experience into that digital experience, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's tools or experiences, bring that all together. I think that's very well said. Thank you. I'd love to double click on that just a little bit more as well. I know we had talked previously about the uneven impacts that some of the great migration is having on women specifically. And I know that's an area that you're passionate about. And I'd love if you could talk a little bit more about what you're seeing there and how that's impacting women specifically.
Gosh, People Plus Work has also been thinking about the gender migration and actually resignation. They're actually leaving the workforce. These are not migrating to another employer. They're making a choice to care for family and for whatever needs they have at home. And so we've got to be better at our agility, if you will, in terms of how to support them, recognizing caregiving is a responsibility and recognizing it's both genders really, but the dominant gender that seems to be carrying on this work is the female. And so how do you create conversations with management, with the employee about caregiving, making it like mental health, a mainstay? What do you need? What adaptability do we have in our practices and our policies to allow you to be your best self and care for your family? What coaching, therapy, support can we give you and your family to be your best selves as well? So I think we have to lean in a little bit more, Matt. I think we also have to harness that talent, bring them back into the workspace when they are ready. So how do you do returnships? So you lag a year. Women tend to, and this is generalization, and I truly don't like it, but if you think about confidence, men tend to raise their hand when they're 80% ready for a gig. Women raise their hand when they're 110% ready for a gig. Now, if they've been caregiving for a year, they're gonna be less confident re-entering the workforce into that next opportunity. So as recruiters and talent leaders, don't let them lose that confidence. Bring them back in a returnship. Bring them back and say, look, we're going to invest in you to bring you back up to speed, or even before day one, giving you the skills, the tools, the capability. So you walk in with some swag, confidence. So you grab that opportunity. I think we have to do things different.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah. So it's really about kind of opening up the aperture to talent, right? And whether that's through programs or previews or helping people get that confidence back so that they're able to integrate successfully into the company. I think that's fantastic. And just to segue off of that a little bit, I think more broadly speaking, we've seen different companies start to announce different models. So like you've got Coinbase who announced their remote first company, and then you see other companies that are kind of thinking about whether they return to work or how they return to work, obviously a big topic. Geography has become less of a constraint for talent than it has been previously. So more generally, like, what opportunities do you think that opens up for talent teams with the lack of geographic restrictions that have been in place in the past?
Wow. Our aperture widens. You can hire people from all over the world. Make sure you have a corporate entity and the right tax support and the right benefits of care, right? You want to make sure we're nurturing the employees that we're hiring for sure. That's your baseline. But you can hire a more diverse set of talent around the world now. Like it just opens up everything for us. If someone is willing to work through the night in another location, the time zone is different. It's on them. They might be night owls. I personally like to go to bed at 9 p.m. and get up really early. Some people like working through the night, Matt. So it's about, here's the gig. Here's the expectations of results. It's going to put more pressure on us as talent leaders, be clear about our goals and expectations of a job, right? And how it evolves. And teach managers on how to lead a distributed multicultural workforce like never before. Because we're not going to look at that parking lot over there and say, is it full or not in the afternoons? Or everyone's not showing up on Fridays. They must not be working. Like that's gone.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, and I think that's so true. It opens up so many more opportunities for folks, but it's really challenging. Like how do we grasp that opportunity from a technology perspective? I think that's something I hear a lot of TA leaders struggling with today, is that there's so many different technologies in the HR tech space available, and there's been more data available than there ever has been in our space. But I'm curious, from your perspective, what do you see, for you and your peers, what HR tech areas are you doubling down on? What do you think is going to be the next systems, the next products over the next, year and a half or so? What's important to you?
I'm going to double down on my data warehouse. I think data-driven decision-making, right? Real insights, not just analytics, to understand cause and effect and correlation stronger, better. I think it's about looking at your talent pools and your talent planning strategy, really understanding that and where your footprint can be. I think it's about your applicant tracking and your diversity pipeline to make sure that as you're looking at talent across the board, that you see what is coming through that pipeline and being more intentional about making sure there's diversity from top to tail, and that you're looking at the right competencies and more objective evaluation of talent. I know that if we go fast, our biases sneak in. I know that if we do pattern recognition, our biases sneak in. So I'm trying to keep every interview, every job opportunity unique and fresh. So we slow our neurological roll and make better decisions. And so if you use tech, think about this, Matt. If we use tech in an interview process, it can send me a nudge, say, park your bias, don't go too fast, slow down, right? Don't worry just about pedigree, be unique. It can probe me in the moment about looking at resumes, looking at CVs around the world, like make sure your bias is not creeping in. And I know for a fact that if we do that, if we nudge you once, Matt, you'll be better. If I remind you a couple times in that pipeline, you'll be your best self. And so we can do mini trainings like, why does this matter? Why does going fast actually de-risks a mistake, but doesn't increase your sense of success? Mm-hmm. Right? So if you're looking at pattern recognition, well, I know if I hire everyone from Cisco with this background, they won't fail, but maybe they won't be the greatest talent either for my unique opportunity. Maybe if I open up my aperture to industry, cross industry, different mindsets, different ethnicities, cultures, I'll get better outcomes. That means I have to learn more, slow down, be more intentional. And technology can help us with that.
Excellent. I love that. Yeah, we don't want to remove the human from the machine. That's for sure. Definitely.
Keep it in there.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think just to dovetail with that, I think with TA leaders specifically and talent professionals, we have all of these systems. We have, I think more than ever, we've always asked for a seat at the table. You've heard this, for years, that talent professionals want to have a seat at the proverbial table, if you will. And I think now, if you agree that we finally have been offered that seat. With everything going on, there are so many businesses that are really wanting us to have that proactive seat at the table. But what do you think, as a leader, as an executive, what do talent leaders need to do to show up well at that table? What do executives want from talent teams now?
I would encourage all of us to embrace a growth mindset, to what I like to say, argue like you're right, Matt, but listen like you're wrong. meaning come to the table with your data, come to your table with confidence, come to the table with a point of view. You've done some homework, you've done your research, you formulated a hypothesis, and you're going to share that with passion, conviction. And then you're going to solicit input, reactions, thoughts, the rumble that Brene Brown would talk about. So pause on being right, suspend your belief that you're right, and listen like you're wrong. Follow up your questions. What do you mean by that, Matt? Help me understand why that data set would change this outcome. Because if you listen like you're wrong, we all grow better and stronger. So if you're at the table, if you're in the discussion, be both confident and curious, first and foremost. The second thing is know what you're not, right? So going in the pandemic, I'm not a medical expert, right? I'm not a COVID expert. I don't know everything about the social injustice happening in every country, in every facet, every graphic. But I do know every day I care. I want to be my best advocate self. And so I'm committed to a journey of learning. And so I strive not to speak when I'm not the expert, but bring experts to the table to educate others and have that confidence to do that. I think if we pretend to be everything, we are nothing, right? We'll lose the credibility that we so deserve to have at that table.
Definitely. Thank you for that. Yeah. And just to add to that too, I'm curious, with the talent leaders you work with and you see in your different organizations you're involved in today, how are you seeing their roles changing? Like what are they being asked to do now that they weren't asked, to do, a year or two ago?
It's trying to reimagine the modern employee value proposition. Purpose-driven organizations outperform those who don't have a purpose. So refresh your purpose, make sure it's clear to the employee base. Do you have an employee value proposition? What do you deliver for your employee? What do they deliver to you? And together you manifest great success for both the business, your industry, and your customers. Be clear on that. And then where can you be more agile based upon the employee voice? Like never before, the employee voice has such influence. I was reading an article today in Fortune about the modern economy and what they were calling stakeholder capitalism. So the employee voice in that stakeholder capitalism has significantly increased. And so that means as talent leaders, we're going to be more agile in the services we offer. We're going to be more thoughtful in the menu of choices to meet people and their lifestyle where they need it and how they need it versus being too prescriptive. So I think that EVP approach, employee value prop, needs to be refreshed, revisit that. Agility and choice gives more engagement, right? It's harder to manage. There's a taxation layer of us creating choice. It's less efficient, by the way, but you'll get higher engagement. And then that purpose-driven org. What is the purpose of your company and your function, how you feather into that and remind people all the time of the impact they have will go a long way. Those are great practices.
Excellent. Thank you for that. That's fantastic. And I think that's excellent. And so I'm curious also, as you think about kind of this next year, there's such a demand for talent right now. I think that, I saw on LinkedIn this morning that there are over 314,000 open roles for recruiters in the US. Right?
It's one of the most demand jobs out there right now, Matt. It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, given that demand picture, like even hiring for our own teams is hard, let alone hiring for the other teams that we want to hire for each of our businesses that we support. What do you think, forward-looking talent teams can do to stand out? Well, how do we rise above that? And what would you recommend there beyond, EVP and some of those things that you mentioned? How do teams think differently?
So don't treat your talent team as a secondary, citizen, right? They should be the tip of the spear. Any program you do, your talent organization should go through it first. If you're doing training, inclusive, hiring, if you're doing, coaching conversations, let the HR talent teams go through that first so they can help lead the way and feel confident, right? A sense of pride that they're in that transformation with your organization. Strive to create a 3-year journey map for your organization, for your talent function, so they know what they're building towards. If they always feel they're reacting to something and they're struggling to deliver their best work, it's going to be hard to retain your talent. So give them a vision of where they're going, inspire them. Even when you're doing platform plays, like implementing an ATS can sound boring, right? Who likes to, implementing a technology is really, really hard. But if I turn that around and say, if we do this well, think of what we can manifest. If we implement the right funnel into the organization, we will create and hire our best talent yet. We will secure the future of this company in an amazing way. We'll get the best talent with the right quality, with the best experience ever, and we'll retain them. Isn't that worth our energy, right? Give context for what you do, and you'll have better talent coming into the organization, and they'll stay longer and they'll be more engaged. So giving them context, giving them a longer term horizon of what they're working on, why it matters, treating them as first-class citizens in this journey with you, and then helping nurture their skills, right? I think a recruiter over time might want to evolve and do something else. How are you evolving their career? They're heads down, they're filling racks, they're trying to solve problems, day-to-day combat, right? Like, I've got a wreck, I've got an issue, I'm competing with another company. How do I do that? Giving them the tools they need and the confidence they need to be their best selves is another thing I have to deliver for them, so they feel great.
Excellent. I love that. I think that'll be music to our audience's ears. So thank you for that, Pat. That's great. That concept of aligning everyone to a North Star and helping them understand the why. Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. So just to close out here, I'd love to know a little bit, as we head into the tail end of 2021, early 2022, what would be your rallying cry for us in the talent community? You've touched on some of these important topics about weaving through belonging and inclusion, focusing on technology tied to vision, and some of the other themes that you've mentioned there. But what would be your rallying cry that you would give us all as talent professionals here on the call today?
Start with empathy, but lead with compassion, meaning there's pain and discomfort and angst across your organization, across the world. Understand that, seek to understand what's happening in your own org. And that starts the conversation. But what really helps the organization evolve is compassion. And compassion is simply, Matt, empathy plus action, right? You're problem solving then. I know you're in pain. You don't have all the tools. I feel bad for you. I'm struggling too on this thing. But you know what? If I had compassion for you, Matt, I'm going to get you more tools. I'm going to get you that data set. I'm going to give you the talent flows from LinkedIn to help you figure out where you need to compete and how you need to court talent. I'm going to help you solve your problems. So leading with compassion now is a call to action like never before. Keeping mental health in the forefront, especially with that sense of belonging. People experience life differently at different points in time, and it's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to smile every day. Don't think that person is not doing their best work because they're not smiling, but show that you care. A human-centric approach is so meaningful right now. Just check in. Spend the 10 minutes, check in.
Excellent. I love that. Yeah, human-centric approach, I think, is going to be my mantra going into 2022. That's excellent. Thank you, Pat. And so, I think as you touched on this point, I think now is more than ever is our time as talent leaders to take that seat at the table. For all of us as talent professionals to help make that happen. And you've given us such a rich kind of path to get there. And so I think, I speak for all of us on the call here and at GEM to say a huge thank you for making time to be with us today, to share with us your wisdom and experience. Thank you so much, Pat.
Thank you, Matt. It was my pleasure. I always love chatting with you. So this has been fun.
Likewise. Can't wait to do it next time. See you next year.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.